Talking with the Experts.
Hello and welcome to Talking with the Experts. My name's Rose Davidson from rosedavidson.com, and Talking with the Experts is about all things business by business owners for business owners, and you can find it on all good podcasting streaming platforms and on YouTube. And today my guest is Cara Stokes, and Cara Stokes will be talking to us about copywriting. And the friendly fitness copywriter Cara Stokes helps health, fitness and wellness professionals make their words sell. From writing epic sales pages to making their content SEO friendly, she gets their words working for them. A healthy living buff, you will often find her doing a yoga or weight sessions finished off by a swim at her local beach on the beautiful Mornington Peninsula. Oh my goodness, I love it down there. Welcome, Cara. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit more about your fitness professionals and, how you can help them get their copyright.
Sure. Well, your content you produce is super important because the words are basically what sell things. So the images are what attract people and the words are what convince you that this is what they want to go with, whether it's services or products, doesn't matter. The words you put on the page in the digital world, because you're not face-to-face, they're really, really important. So what I do is I sit down and find out what they need, whether it's a blog post or a website, and we spend some time getting to know their brand, their tone of voice, and then I go and do all the writing and take it off their hands.
Yep. So how do you actually get their tone of voice? I mean, I know because it's hard to speak in someone else's language or use their tone.
It can be quite tricky, but it depends. Some brands are really strong and know already their tone of voice. So obviously, if you're a solo business owner, then often your tone of voice is how you speak. But if you have a team, then the brand can often have its own sort of persona and brand voice. So I spend time listening to whoever I'm liaising with, whether that's the business owner or the marketer, and listen to the kind of words they use around their brand, but then also talk about their culture around their brand. So the people that they're wanting to reach out to, and just the style of how they want to be heard and get a real feel for it. So I spend about half an hour to an hour, depending on the business, getting to know what they like. And I also ask them. And throughout the writing process, there's, we don't just I don't sit and write it and then send it off and go, here it is. We had the drafting process. So they get to say, oh, we don't use that word, we use this one. So there's a lot of client, relationship and input so that we really nail that brief.
Yeah, so how do you incorporate SEO into your copy?
Well, it's about knowing where to put those keywords is one of the biggest things for your content and your copy. So understanding the main places that search engines look and also knowing which keywords to look for.
Yeah, so how do you know what keywords to look for or to put in? I find that quite a challenge for myself.
It is quite a tricky topic, the SEO with the keywords. So you start with what your audience is going to ask you, the big questions. How do you help them? What do you do? Who you are? Where you are? That's the sort of thing that they're going to plug in. If you're a myotherapist, they're going to go myotherapist in Bayswater. They're going to look for something that's local in those kind of terms. Or if they're looking for a cardigan, they'll type in blue cardigan, women's size, large or small or whatever it is. So you've got to think about what they're going to search for first. Then you go and use some tools to do some keyword research. So you want to look for keywords that have enough searches every month, so a decent volume every month that people are actually looking for them, because if they're not looking for them, there's no point putting them in your copy. But you also have to look at the competition, and this is where you have to find this fine balance, because you might find a keyword that's got heaps of searches, but if the competition is really high, you're never going to rank for it. So if you're competing against like Nike and Reebok, there's no point going after that keyword because they will be all over it. So you have to look for keywords that are longer. So rather than just going blue shoes, you'd go women's blue shoes, high heels, give them more details, longer keywords, and you've got a higher chance of ranking for them.
Okay. So what I do other than this podcast is there's not a lot of competition for what I do.
That's good.
So how do you find your competitors?
They would definitely be out there. So what is it exactly that your audience would be looking for? So if they popped onto Google, what do you think they would type in there to find you?
PowerPoint presentations or PowerPoint creator or something like that.
Okay, so your competition would even be other software. So you'd have to start looking for PowerPoint presentation creation management or coaching, or get into more details of what it is you do, because if you just pop in PowerPoint presentation, you'll get Microsoft PowerPoint and updates and forums on how to do different things. You're competing with all of that sort of stuff, so it's really nailing and honing down what it is that you do so you can get those longer keywords. So when say, I want someone to create it for me, pay someone to create a PowerPoint presentation, then that's what you'd be going for.
Okay, so how do you use storytelling? Why is that so important?
Well, storytelling's been around all throughout human history. This is how we've communicated forever. And it's super important because it's how we relate to one another, and that's how they relate to your brand. So if you just tell them who you are and just put it all in dot points, then A, it's boring, and B, they don't get a feel for who you are and can't imagine sort of working with you. So storytelling is how we express emotion, how we build that sort of relationship, that trust, and get people's imaginations working. It's really important because you're not there in person. You don't have that sort of rapport and body language that creating this story gets them feeling. You want to invoke emotion, because without emotion, they don't take action. So those stories need to really get them, whether it's happy or sad or frustrated, whatever the emotion is, you need to get them feeling something.
Okay, so if you're trying to sell a pair of shoes, how in the hell can you, put emotion into that?
Oh, very easily. So you think about where they're going to wear their shoes. Are they for going out to a wedding? What kind of emotions are they going to have around that? You're excited, you're getting dressed up, you want to feel snazzy, you want to look your sharpest, maybe a bit of romance, depending if it's for running, then you want to talk about the practicalities, nurturing their feet, looking after them. So there's easily a story that can be found in everything. It's just thinking about the situations that they would use that product in and what sort of relief it's going to give them, how it's going to make them feel. And that kind of the story flows from there.
Okay, so it's not storytelling in the normal sense of the word then, is it?
Well, it's kind of a bit of both, because you're also weaving, particularly on your website, you're weaving the story of your brand, so telling them who you are and how you started and how you came about. So that's sort of more of the normal storytelling, and then weaving them into it and basically making them the hero of the story. So what you want to do is take them from, you're frustrated and stuck in this position now and you want to get over here. Now, this product or service is going to get you there and you will be amazing. You're going to launch yourself. So often as business owners, we get into the trap of thinking that what we offer is the hero, but the customers want to be the hero. They want to be in that spotlight. They want to see themselves going to this magical, wonderful place. So it's about taking them on that journey and knowing that what you offer is going to help get them there.
Yeah, it makes heaps of sense, yes. I'll have to relook at my front page now.
It's a different way of thinking about it.
It is, absolutely. So, how can people, keep writing consistently and branding, and why does that matter as well?
Sure. Well, branding is really consistent, because the more consistent it is, the better brand recognition you get. Like I said before, as soon as I said Nike or Reebok, you knew who I was talking about. And this is what we want. We want our brands to be instantly recognised. As soon as they see the colours, as soon as they hear certain words, they go, oh, that's Susie, the football coach, or whatever it is that you're doing. They know it straight away. So keeping consistency is about using the same types of words all the time. So I might say something is super awesome, and that's the kind of tone and word that I would use all the time. If you're very relaxed and laid back, or if you're very formal, they're your tones of voice, and they would need to be consistent all the time. You don't want to be constantly changing how you sound, because it becomes confusing and it takes them longer to realize who's speaking to them, because every piece of content you create is like a conversation with the reader. You imagine like we're having a chat now, They're just sitting there and they're reading, and you're kind of talking to them and having this conversation with them. So it's really important to make sure that it flows. So thinking about your tone of voice, the types of words, your graphics, your fonts, keeping it all within sort of 2 to 3 colours, 2 to 3 fonts, your tones of voice, pick like 3. If you've got 5 or 10, they'll never get a grasp for who you are. And every time you sit down, if I suddenly jumped up and started being really shouty and then really sort of meek and quiet, you'd be like, what is going on? Like, who is she? So it's just about really knowing how you're communicating and keeping that a nice even flow throughout.
Yeah, I someone had a look at my website the other day, and I use the exact same font. I only use one font, but one's in bold and one's in just regular. And they said there were too many fonts, and I didn't understand that. So can you explain to me, why using just one font but in different, thicknesses made this person think that I was using too many fonts?
Look, sometimes it just comes down to personal choice. So without sort of having a deeper look and knowing what they're talking about, it's a bit tricky. But I would say you would want to have your headers a consistent font each time. So your main header, the same size every time, and then your subheaders the same size every time, and then your paragraph text the same size every time. So if those are changing on each page or throughout the page, then it might just simply be the sizing.
Okay.
Also be the formatting. If you're going, left aligned, center, right aligned, justified, switching that up all the time as well. It's a lot of work for their brains. So the thing you have to focus on, even though we have these wonderful brains, humans don't actually like to use them. When they think they use calories and they don't want to do that, they're trying to use as little brain power as possible. So we need to make it really easy for them to just skim read it. So trying to keep it all formatted the same makes it a lot easier. So maybe that's what was tripping them up.
Oh, it could have been. I don't know. Just seemed really odd.
Surprising. Usually that would happen if you've got, a script font and a big chunky font and,
Yeah, I would have thought that. That's what I couldn't understand what she was on about. But anyway, we'll move on from that. So tell me a little bit more about, the types of clients that you work with.
Sure. I work with a lot of health, fitness and wellness clients. So therapists, mindset coaches, personal trainers, gyms. I've sort of dove into that space because that's what I'm passionate about. But I also work with other people too. I've worked with garden designers, project management type businesses. So it just depends on sort of what comes my way and how it fits too. You have to have that sort of understanding and be able to relate quite well to each other, which, most of the time, the people that come to me, we just fit and that works. But occasionally I'll go, look, I think there might be a better copywriter for you, because they might just understand the way you want to express yourself better, or they might have specialist, insight into that industry. Occasionally certain industries like, say, technology or science or finance, sometimes it's good to know what they're talking about in terms of, the jargon and stuff like that. But quite often it's quite, I do a research around every project. So whoever comes my way, I spend time getting to know the brand and the terminology and then turning it into content that they really enjoy.
Yeah, and that makes sense because, you don't want to be working with people that, aren't a good fit for you, or you're not a good fit for them, and ends up being a disaster, and the words just don't come out properly.
Well, that's it. No one is for everybody. We all have people that we gel with and get along with, and we all have people that we just can't quite, even if we're lovely, kind, honest people, it just doesn't quite, it doesn't quite sit there. So sometimes you just need to find that right person. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about, what you do as a copywriter, other than, what you've explained before, just so people get a feel for you.
Sure. Well, I write social media posts, like I said, blog posts, websites, video scripts, LinkedIn profiles, because you can optimize those not only with SEO, but also writing them to entice people to get in contact with you. Email campaigns, e-commerce sites, or product descriptions, all that sort of thing. So all your digital words, that's what I work with.
Oh, perfect. Geez, there are people bashing your door down now.
That would be nice.
It would be nice, wouldn't it? Yeah, it'd be good if we were all consistently employed.
Indeed.
Yeah. So what words of wisdom have you got to share for people that, are really challenged with doing their copy and they can't afford to hire a copywriter?
It's a great question, because quite often we do need to DIY, particularly when we're starting up. We don't have the huge budget there to get someone in. So if you're trying to have a go at it yourself, first of all, never expect the first draft to be good. The first draft is always garbage. I relate it to like when you make pancakes. That first pancake just never rises the same, or it's a bit oily. It's just never quite right. So that first draft is just getting all of your thoughts on the page, and then you come back and refine it. So people often get scared by the blank page because it's, I've got to get this thing out, and it's really important because it's for my business, and sometimes you have a deadline, so there's pressure. So just take all that away and just sit there and just put whatever down, because you'll take time and you'll reflect on it and you'll hone it over time. So that would be my first tip. And the second tip I'd say is to write in batches. So if you're struggling to get blog posts or social media posts out or emails, sit down once a month and do it all at the same time, because you'll get that flow building up and it becomes faster than if you pop in and out sort of every few days and try and do it ad hoc.
Yeah, so would you advise like keeping a theme for your blogs, especially and your social media posts? Like, do you keep a theme like once a month, or is that sort of outdated now?
No, I would do that because it still makes it easier for you to produce your content, but I would tailor the themes around what they want to know. So for you, it might be how to work with you, 1 month. How do I work with someone who creates PowerPoints? I don't know how to do that. So you might focus on the job process. And then the next month you might talk about design principles, and colours that are on trend and things like that. So you can work with themes, because it does definitely make the planning stage a lot easier, because sort of each topic as you go, but just make sure that it's really relevant to what they want to know about your business.
And so on the morning, I know you're on the Mornington Peninsula, which is in Victoria, isn't it?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and near the beaches and all that sort of really yummy stuff. And how's the weather down there, just quietly?
It's cold today. We haven't really had that much of a summer, unfortunately. We've had some nice days where we've been able to go and spend lots of time at the beach, but it's still nice to get out and about and walk, but not swimming weather, unfortunately.
No, so same down here in Tassie. It's just not been very nice. It's unfortunate, but never mind. It happens.
It does. It'd be nice if the skies cleared up a bit and we got some more blue. At least then you get to see that blue summer. It feels a bit nicer, doesn't it?
It does. So do you work mainly digitally, or do you have in-person clients as well?
All digitally, yeah, because I work across Victoria and across Australia as well, so it's all digitally. So I generally do sort of one meet up like this on Zoom for half an hour, and most of the rest is just done by emails. And it actually makes it easier because I try to take up as little time as possible, because as business owners, as you know, you're already super busy and you just want this stuff to be done. So I try to keep the communication open, let them know how the project's going the whole way along, but do as much as I can sort of on my behalf and let them just get on with what they do best.
Perfect. And Cara, where can people find you?
Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn under Cara Stokes or Cara Stokes Copywriter, and my website is just Cara Stokes Copywriter.
Perfect. All right, so you've given me your tips and you've given me heaps to think about my own copywriting, because I really suck at it. And I'm not too ashamed to admit it either, because there's horses for courses, I reckon.
Oh, definitely. We all have our own strengths and weaknesses. I get other people to do my numbers because that's just not my thing. So
all right, well, thank you so much for joining me. Do you have any other things that you'd like to impart with us today?
I guess one last thing will be, you will get better over time. Keep going. If you're DIYing all the time like you and it's not your natural thing and you don't want to outsource, you do get better with time. Writing is a skill. The creativity, can sort of wane and come and go, but the main thing is just keep practicing.
Yeah, good point. All right, well, thank you so much for your time today, and we'll talk again very soon.
All right, see you later.
Bye.